Hi, it's Shenandoah, and I'm here with Cujo, a horrible, horrible rescue dog. And I wanted to tell you the story of the time I spent my entire paycheck on a dog I knew for 15 minutes. So I lived in the Deep South, and I was a house painter for a while, and I worked with my boyfriend slash boss. I was 19 years old. He was old, 32. Not that 32 is old, but some people are just born old. So I'm 19 and I believe in magic and treasure and excitement, and I'm going to be famous. And Mr. Smith believed in cheap beer, hard work, and hardship. He had just gone through a divorce. I think it had been final maybe 6 months. And I'm 19. So I assume like divorces are like light switches. You just turn it off and you don't love the person anymore, because I was 19. My longest relationship was 7 months. So anyway, we're doing a paint job out in the middle of nowhere, and the security guard comes up to us. In the South, it's who you know, not what you know. And he was like, "Hey, Mr. Smith." And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Miss Janice is looking for you. Her old place is for rent." And he was like, "I haven't seen that woman in 15 years. And he was like, "Well, she heard you were working out here." So he mentioned it to me. The rent was $150 a month. Granted, this was like 1998. But that was crazy cheap for the 90s. I mean, it's crazy cheap anytime, anywhere. I lived with my mom. I was desperate to get out. And so he said, "I'll take you by that old house and let you take a look at it and see if it's something you want to rent." And so we pull up to this little tiny asbestos-sided house. And Mr. Smith kind of gets out and he gets real quiet. And he kind of kicks the sidewalk. It's like chunks of concrete. And he goes, "There's a dead cat right here. Should have known it was a bad sign." I look down and there's nothing. And I'm like, "What?" And he was like, "I lived here with my wife. This was our first place." Gross. Why people gotta talk about the past? Like, oh my God, I'm 19 and I'm pretty and I'm skinny and I'm all that matters, right? Like, oh my God, who cares? And so I just wander off. Like, I'm already scoping the place out to see if I could put horses there and see what kind of grass I got. I don't even care about the house. I'm like, I'll live in a tool shed. If my horses and my dogs can come, I don't care. So anyway, then Mr. Smith goes, "Here's a dog harness hanging on the tree that I hung here 15 years ago. My good dog got hit by a car right over there." And I'm like, all right, with memory lane, who cares? I'm pretty. I'm right here, Mr. Smith. Like, oh my God, flip the light switch, get over your wife, get over whatever it is, and help me look at this cool house. No. So would you stop burping in my face? You're so weird. So anyway, I'm walking around outside, and for no reason whatsoever, I got in trouble for this in kindergarten, and I did not learn my lesson at, 19 years later. I look under the house like there's going to be treasures, because, once I heard a rumor that somebody had found a Picasso in a chicken coop. That was going to be me, baby. Like, I'm going to find $1 million treasure in the middle of Hendersonville, South Carolina, under a shack with the worst electricity ever. So I look underneath this house, and there's something under there. And in my little artist brain, I'm like, that is a bust of Michelangelo. That is a marble bust under there. And then Mr. Smith, being old and tired, "Get out, get off the ground, get out from under that, that's nasty." And so I was wearing painter's whites after working all day long. And now I'm covered in like some sort of weird moss and dirt, and I smell like decay. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I found a bust of Michelangelo under the house." He's like, "No, you did not. Come on, and let's come inside." And so I go inside, and we walk around, and it's a cute little place. It has an open panel electrical box, no heater air, but there's a spot for a wood stove if you want to put one in. But it was $125 a month. Room for my dog, room for my horses. I didn't care about anything else. And so he's like, "There's a piece of rope in the tree where I hung up a tire swing for my nieces. And I'm like, who cares about the past? Did you not notice that I'm pretty and 19 and you're old? So he goes and looks at the rope in the tree, and I walk out on the front porch, and there's a rope, another rope, like an actual useful rope not tied to his past, and I pick it up like a smartass, and I go, does this ring a bell? And he was like, put that down. But then I noticed at the end of it, there was a dog collar, and it was like there was hair all over it, but of course no dog. And so I throw it down because it was gross and it stank. But when he was distracted, I'm like, let me go real quick and go look under this house one more time, because I got to see this bust. Because there is absolutely a piece of masterpiece under this raggedy shack in Deepwood, South Carolina. So I look, and the bust is gone. Gone. And I'm like, I was like, well, maybe it was a plastic bag. And so I look, and he's not looking. So I climb under there a little deeper. It was a dog. And he was just rags. He was bone with like a layer of skin over it. And I was like, I just saw you over there, so you know you're not dead. And so I said, Michelangelo, can you hear me? Kind of lifts his head up a little bit. So I reach in and I grab him by the scruff of the neck, because that's all I can reach. Like, I can't squeeze any deeper under this moldy stank house. And I drag him out. Mr. Smith looks at me holding this carcass of a barely living dog, and he's like, because he knows I'm not leaving it. So he was like, get in the car. So I take a drop cloth out of the back, I wrap the dog up, and I lay it in my lap. And there's this obscure song I have searched for years, I cannot find it, but the lyrics went, Michelangelo, can you hear me? Put your hammer down, put your hammer down. So I named him Michelangelo, and I sang to him the hour back into the city. So we lived in a more urban area at the time, and it had grown up from being a very small town to a very rich seaside community. So Mr. Smith pulls up to the rich, literally oceanfront vet. Would you stop knocking things over? And we open the door, bright lights. I am covered in my painter's whites with black moss. I smell like decay. And I'm holding a dog wrapped in a painter's cloth that is nothing but a head and a spine and some like spidery legs. I literally felt like the sinner at the gates of heaven. Like, oh, here comes some Sister Marian hound-loving trash that abused their dog and is now walking through our seaside vet. Everybody stopped talking. There was like a collie. Even the collie was like, ugh. And I was like, I just got side-eyed by a collie in a diamond collar. The vet takes one look at me and is like, come on, get in the back. And I tell him the story of how I found him. And so we lay Michelangelo on the drop cloth on the floor, and the man gets out this can of very fancy dog food and pops the top and hands me a spoon. And he said, you feed him while I get everything ready. I'm like, this can of dog food smelled better than anything I've ever eaten, and it was probably more than my lunch. So I'm spoon feeding Michelangelo, who just has just enough energy to open his little mouth and chew dutifully, just laying there eating the food, and I'm singing to him. And they take him back for x-rays, and so I rush out to the front to tell Mr. Smith the good news that Michelangelo's going in for x-rays, and he has settled his paint thinner smelling stank ass right in between two rich ladies and that collie that is no longer side-eyeing. It is like, ugh, he smells like chemicals. Mom, do something. And he lowers his magazine, and then raises it back up, and I kind of like look at the ladies like, I'm so sorry, we're gross and we're invading your space. They call me in the back after they did the x-rays, and they put the film up on the light box, and he says, I want you to take a look at this. And he shows me Michelangelo's side, and you could see his ribs and all this stuff, and he said, this is the dog, this is his organs, and all of this white stuff is cancer. Whew, I'm gonna cry 20 years later. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And he said, we're gonna have to put him down. And you could sit with him for a few minutes. And so I did. I sat with this reeking, stinking dog that had been tied to a front porch. And the people moved away, and he lost so much freaking weight that his collar slid off, and he went under the house to die. And I sat with him, and I cried so hard for him. And they sent me back out front. And this pretty little receptionist started pushing dollar amounts into the cash register, and the vet came up behind her and he said, take the heartworm test off, take the x-rays off, take this off, take that off. And it was all said and done. I had worked all week long, and I made 97 cents because I spent my entire paycheck on a dog I knew for 15 minutes. Well, an hour if you count him laying in my lap. And I was just heartbroken. 20 years later, no, I'm 47. It's like 27 years later. It still breaks my heart. And so now I'm alone. Mr. Smith is long gone. And I have a house full of misfit dogs that nobody wants, like Cujo, who bit his family and then came here and had to live for 2 weeks on a leash because he wouldn't let his mama near him, and growled so bad that when I took him to the vet to get neutered, they had to sedate him in the waiting room because he tried to kill everybody with a muzzle on. God help anybody who tries to get in the yard, but I've got a cool friend. But I don't know what the moral of this story is. I just wanted to tell you about a dog I loved, and I have a lot more regrets about dogs I've loved and lost than anything else in the whole world. But even if you don't change the whole world, if you can just change the world for one critter, you've changed their life. And that's probably a pretty decent thing. So y'all go out and do something good today. Even if it's just petting something real terrible with a beard that's inexplicably wet 24/7. Lucky I love you, nasty boy. Would you stop? All right, if you want to read the story, it's called Michelangelo, Can You Hear Me? And it is on my website, shannondoa.com. But don't forget, my name is misspelled. Thanks, Mom. But it's shannondoa.com. I'll talk to you guys soon.